You might want to stay warm this weekend, so it might be time to get those blankets you've been stashing. The South African Weather Service is warning that it will be cold, snowy and rainy in some parts of the country. Let's hear how this looks specifically and which provinces are impacted. Weather Forecaster Lehlohonolo Thobela joins us in studio. Lehlohonolo, always great to chat to you. Usually it's on Teams. Tonight you're here in person, so we're grateful. So you're saying snow is on the cards along with rain, wind, some cold weather. Whereabouts are we likely to find this?
Good evening and thanks for having me. I think most of the showers and rain that are expected are mainly to be the southern parts of the country. Mainly over the Cape provinces would be the Western Cape, the Eastern Cape is spreading over to KwaZulu-Natal over the weekend. So most of the showers and rain are expected to remain over the southern parts as we speak of tonight. I mean, with the warnings, we have some strong waves along the coastal areas between Alexander Bay and Cape Agulhas, and mostly strong winds over the central Karoo of the Northern Cape, as well as some heavy rain that's expected along the east coast of the Eastern Cape, and mostly over the southern parts of the Western Cape province tonight. And then moving over to the weekend, that would be tomorrow, then Saturday, that's when we see the system that's bringing most of the cold and the rain to move over the central parts of the country, which then would bring about more of the cold to very cold conditions expected along the high grounds of the eastern parts of the Western Cape province, spreading over to the central parts of the Eastern Cape province, and then that's mostly where we're going to have a drop in temperatures over the Saturday. And then spreading to Sunday, that's when we see the system and more of the showers and rain expected over the central parts, spreading to the eastern parts of the country. That will include the central parts of Free State province, Northwest province, Gauteng, as well as some areas of Mpumalanga. So that will be then, that's when the drop of temperatures starts happening from Saturday into Sunday. Then Sunday into Monday, that's when you have a widespread chance of showers and rain expected, especially over the northeastern parts. That would spread over Mpumalanga all the way up into Limpopo.
Usually when we talk about snow, we know that snow doesn't really occur if the temperatures drop below zero. So you're talking very cold conditions, but also snow. So we can expect them to stay above zero, right?
Yeah, we can. I mean, but mainly it's very cold conditions that are expected. Because remember, I always usually say that people think, that, you know, that thing of people saying it's cold because there's snow. But you always think of the fridge. The fridge is not cold because there's ice. The ice is there because the fridge is cold. So that's what's happening right now. It's actually cold. So we have very cold conditions, especially in the high ground. That's when you're expecting, or most of the freezing levels are dropping over the mountain areas. That's when it reached that's why we see the snow.
So you also talked about some gale force winds along some of the coastal areas. Worrying enough to issue a specific warning to vessels and people, who enjoy water sports?
Yes, I mean, already the warnings are out. We have a warning for not only strong winds, but the waves are also having high seas with that fetch coming in with the strong winds that are happening mainly over the western and the south coast of the Western Cape province, which is spread into the east coast. So most of that. But tomorrow, I think mostly what you should really look into is the heavy rain that's expected mostly in the eastern parts of the Eastern Cape province, which is expected to bring about flooding, which then it's been a problem over since the KZN flood. So that's what we are sending out the warning. Not to say any warning is better than the other, but I think the most one tomorrow we have a level 6, which means the likelihood of it happening is really high, with the impact being significant should it happen tomorrow.
And that's the flooding in the Eastern Cape. How long are these conditions expected to persist?
All right, so we're expecting this to remain over the weekend, and for this from Sunday into Monday, that's when most of the showers and rain are expected over the northeastern parts. So that would cover Mpumalanga, Gauteng, the eastern parts of the Free State province, eastern parts of the Northwest province, and then as well as the southern parts of Limpopo.
And we can expect rain for one day, or does that rain continue into Tuesday and Wednesday?
So looking at the central and the eastern parts, it starts on Sunday and then continues into Monday with this drop of temperatures that's expected over Gauteng and areas over the high veld of the country.
You've also warned hikers and climbers. What conditions can we see them expecting to face, especially in the Cape regions?
I mean, with the cold weather, you can expect how cold it gets as much as they go over. But then with wet weather, as we expect much of the rain, we can expect some rock falls depending on how fertile the soil is and how the landslide or mudslides that you would have. So people should just be cautious, and it's really dangerous. I'd say if I was a climber or anyone that likes hiking and it's rainy and it's cold, just be at home and be warm.
Okay. We're sort of at the start of winter. We haven't really seen a lot of cold weather yet, especially here in Gauteng. So, people like to speculate. They'll say, oh, well, because we've had rain so late, it'll be a very cold winter, or because it's starting so late, it's going to be colder. I know you're not really into the thing of long-term predictions. That's not what you do.
Yeah.
But if you had to give South Africans some advice on what they're likely to expect this winter.
I mean, we're still in autumn, and I think as we've noticed, we've just moved into winter. And when winter comes in and starts making a knock, that's when you start to realize that you have chilly nights, early morning that is very cold with single-digit temperatures. And as the days progresses, you have those cool to warm conditions. But it looks like it will have a winter that's standard. I mean, we've moved into a neutral state of, we moved from La Nina into a neutral state from climatological wise. But in terms of how the climatology is, then that would be a climatologist's perspective and a person, I'm only a meteorologist to sort that out.
In terms of rain in Gauteng this late, we've seen really heavy showers over the last week. And, maybe it's just, people forgetting history further back than 1 year, but it seems abnormal. Is it slightly strange to still have rain in May?
So usually we have an upper system called the cutoff flow that then brings rain over the central parts and northeastern parts of the country. It's frequent, it's mostly happening or happens mostly in April, but then it does happen that when it moves over May, it has a late stop of how the frequency of it happening. And currently with the systems that are happening, that's what's bringing much more of the rain. It's really not that abnormal for the rainfall to happen. Sometimes it might take move over later than would be expected, but the systems, I think, judging from us moving from La Nina season, the patterns can't just stop. So we're still in the continuous area, but it will eventually stop as we get to winter, which would probably be around June to July.
One last quick question. You've also advised farmers to move small stock to dry conditions. Is that only in specific areas?
Yeah, well, it depends on where it is. I mean, for the weekend, most of the showers and rain are expected over the southern parts of the country and the Cape provinces. But as the days progress, I think farmers in the northern parts where they haven't been receiving much of the rain, they'll be expecting much of the rain. But the thing about cold weather is that sometimes then it results in frost, which would result in some black frost where you see vegetation turning black. So that's when, those are the kind of the things that we try to send out for farmers out there.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that update. We really appreciate being able to be prepared for these kinds of conditions. South African weather forecaster Lehlohonolo Thobela giving us an update on rainy, cold and windy conditions expected for parts of the country over the weekend.